Hi everybody and welcome to Des and Lauren. This morning we're going to be speaking about the so-called moonshot pact.
Slingshot to the moon. Hey?
The article comes from News 24 and it says, make the circle bigger. 51% election poll target forces moonshot pact to widen alliance. So the goal here obviously is to out-seat the ANC. And this is a very interesting time for democracy. I don't think this is how democracy or parliament should work at all. And I've always said, even if we stay in the current system, if nothing changes, in an ideal world, if nothing changes, no political party should have more than 30% of the vote. Then you have a more even representation of ideology. And then all of them have to fight for the principles their constituencies believe in, instead of fighting each other for power, because there's a huge difference between representing your constituency and fighting for power.
But this is what's happening here. They are fighting for power still. They want to take power away from the ANC. And it's so funny to see 3 relevant parties and the other 4 wannabes literally trying to get some press and media because of the association with us. I've heard some of these people speak, and it is absolutely shocking what is happening in politics in the country. That this is the best that we can produce in a current system, and I don't blame the current system for what it's attracted. It's attracted trash, and trash can never govern anything. They can't even govern themselves. They're like a bunch of brats.
I'd say America's in the same state when it comes to
most of the governments
when
around
it comes
the
to
world.
the quality of candidates.
Yeah, most of the governments around the world have serious issues. Usually fist fights all over the world.
One
it's
has
not
to,
just
and I mean, it's something I've thought about since the inception of OWN. One has to look at the fact that people who display qualities of success and excellence are not at all attracted to politics. They'll find a niche in some career somewhere and they'll climb to the top and they'll live a successful life and they'll have a lot of fun. People who are that way inclined will not seek political position. So politics is reserved for the unemployables. And that is a very, very...
Well, because of systems, I believe.
Because of the way the system is. So we need to change that, and it's going to take a lot to change that. And I hope that in the future, the pure need for leadership will overweigh people's aversion to politics. But right now what we have is a whole bunch of unemployables in parliament and in government in general, and that is an absolute disaster. What it's going to take to change this country is absolute excellence in mindset and ability to get things done. We need project managers everywhere. We need people that know how to take something and complete it, to be efficient, to not want to waste money or steal money. And it's very, very difficult. So how do we get from here to there? Because looking at this very sad picture.
It's a very sad. We'll give you a link to this article.
You can go look at the
if you
picture.
look at the people standing there, it is so sad. I mean, some of the things I've heard these people say, I'm thinking, where on earth did this person come from? It's great that they want to try and influence things, but dude, you're not the right person. Not even close. You can take literally all of the executive at Coburg and walk them into freaking parliament, and they will do a much better job of this country. It's just they have no interest. They are specialists in their field, but they have the intellect to be able to broaden and expand things and achieve success in the end and deliver a good product. You know, the public wants something done right now. Right now. They don't care about what happens in between, what is necessary to get a good system in place, etc. They don't. And I mean, all the projects that has happened in the nuclear space speaks of that. It's the same for government. This whole Kadesa that happened, that came up with this absolutely horrendous, abhorrent system that causes these idiots to stand before you, is a complete and utter failure. And people, I like what you said earlier, people will have to rise up out of absolute need, because the end will come. If this continues, the end will come. And what the end means, you do not want to see. I mean, I can spell that out if you want to. We can do a video on what the end will look like. A lot of people have said, what will dystopia look like? But the end of what a lot of people want, what that will look like, these people will get you there. So we need to change the system so that we vote for independence.
And you're gonna 2024 is around the corner, so you're gonna get a lot of campaigning happening, and a lot of politicians or people in the political landscape will say, we're promising you jobs, we're promising you better roads, we're promising you this and that. And they'll completely shy away from any ideological talk. And that is actually very revealing, because ideology is everything. And what I mean by that is that no matter what your policies are, no matter what you want to implement in government, do you ultimately believe in the freedom of the individual and the protection of humanity? Or do you believe in a global order? Or do you believe in whatever's happening in mainstream global politics?
Yeah, and as you say, they stay away from it. In fact, nowhere in any of their discussions have they mentioned the word freedom once. These people do not care about freedom, your freedom to make choices. They want full control over your life, and they will do anything to have that power.
So it's like politicians' parties. There's over 500 parties in South Africa. It's like they're in the mindset that they have a point to prove. They want to prove that they can govern better than the ANC, instead of changing the system that gives power to the people to determine their futures. So it's a huge philosophical departure between what they're trying to accomplish and what needs to be done.
And, looking at the sad picture, these 7 men standing there, pathetic men in the political space that people are clinging to. A lot of people are clinging to this patheticness.
That's a good point. A lot of people will read this article and say, finally, some opposition to the ANC. Meanwhile, there are much bigger fish to fry. But let's get a little bit into the article, and then you can read it for yourself and shiver in your boots. I always say patriarchal. It's not. It's the Patriotic Alliance, largely sidelined from coalition talks for the moonshot Pact, may have an avenue to join the 7-party grouping after the coalition convention agreed to broaden the alliance. Sweet. Election projections from the political parties presented at the convention cornered the fundamental dilemma that the coalition talks, named the multi-party charter for South Africa, would fail to achieve a 51% majority in next year's elections.
So they are saying what they have now will not work. That before it's even started, they need more parties to join. Multi-party charter for South Africa. Have you ever heard of a more stupid thing in your life?
The 7 parties, including the DA, IFP, Action SA, Freedom Front Plus.
Maybe you shouldn't even mention the others because...
No, I will. Isanco, I haven't heard of them. UIM and Spectrum National Party concluded Wednesday's first day of talks. The group has settled on a name, vision, and governing principles. Can't wait for the infighting to start. The convention, hosted in Kempton Park, is being held with the assumption the ANC will drop in its electoral performance in 2024, and this will likely allow the prospects for growth for opposition parties if they manage to attract more votes. The 7 parties agreed on broadening the alliance and welcoming other parties into the coalition if they share the same values. The reason for broadening the alliance is political party leaders agreed it was impossible that a majority could be achieved if other parties did not join. This obsession with majority in the current system is just so evident of people's need for power and control. Because what's supposed to happen in National Assembly is that all those bums on seats are supposed to debate constructively about issues and policy and development in South Africa, not fight for power. Every walkout, every argument, every point of order is to exert power and control, not to further the cause of the South Africans. So the MPs right now are not doing their jobs. They are too busy infighting, politicking, and it is so frustrating, and it's just more evidence that we need system change, not policy change. System change that ensures South Africa is a sovereign, strong, independent nation able to defend itself from outside threat, of which there is much.
But just explain quickly, before we go to the next very important point, what is setting out to do to change the system.
Well, we registered as a political party in order to do so we can get international recognition of the legitimate change. We want to make sure South Africans can vote directly for independence. MPs will be geographically based, but most importantly, there's many changes, and we'll bring that to you on the Organic Humanity Movement's YouTube channel. But most importantly, you'll be able to vote for the president of the country yourself instead of allowing these people in parliament to elect the president for you.
But not to be confused with the current bill with independence. You need to be able to directly elect all your MPs. Let's just make that clear.
OM envisions, there will be no recognition, there will be no political party power. All that will exist are independence, and that means no government funding for parties anymore, which means just a more transparent way of doing things. And we'll highlight those things closer to 2024, all the details surrounding that. So we call ourselves the party to end all parties. Even OM itself will cease to be a political party at a specific point in time.
So News 24 has been told by leaders close to the talks a gap to achieving the 51% majority likely lies between 8 and 10% and could be more. Do these people really believe that the African National Congress, after losing the majority of the vote, if it's 49% or 48% or whatever the case, are just going to walk away and say everything's fine and dandy? Have they forgotten how they got to power in the first place? These people have short memories. I always say, in a room of people, if everyone has a gun, the most powerful person is the person willing to pull the trigger. These guys don't know how to pull triggers. That's for sure.
Jason McKenzie and his deputy, Kenny,
he knows how to pull triggers.
Pulled the party.
Clayton can pull a trigger.
He pulled the party out of its working relationship with this initial coalition and struck up a relationship with the ANC and the EFF. So very interesting times indeed. And it's just going to be more fun and games as we inch closer and closer to 2024.
So have you ever been interested in coalition talks with regards to anything with anyone else?
Not at all.
Why?
It's unnecessary. Citizens should vote or choose or join the solution that makes more sense. But because commerce is involved, because currency is involved, because jobs are on the line, political parties have to stick it out where they're getting paid. So it's not about the best ideas, it's about what pays. And it's a disaster in this country, and I hope to turn it around, and I think we're going to. I really do.
Oh yeah.
Sooner rather than later.
Well, it'll be necessary for the turnaround to happen, because if that doesn't happen, people will literally lose all control of any possible freedom in future. And I believe at this stage, most people in South Africa still want to have the freedom of choice. At this stage, that is where South Africa is at. The majority of people want freedom of choice. And with these idiots in politics, that is certainly up for sale. And a lot of people don't really comprehend how for sale your freedom is.
We're going to leave the rest of the article for you to read and educate yourself on. A lot of people you speak to might think, yay, this is a way to get rid of the corrupt ANC so we can finally be saved. However, it's just more of the same. And it reminds me of the joke I kind of told, not that it's super funny, after a long session at Parliament actually, where non-represented parties were invited to this meeting.
Many of these idiots too.
It was painful to be part of that. It was painful to listen to what South Africa has to offer. Anyway, my joke was, how many politicians does it take to change a light bulb? The answer is none, because they'll be having committees and task teams and meetings and more committees and more task teams and more meetings to change that light bulb. It will never get done. They'll probably
decide on how to do it.
A tender going out, 10,000 light bulbs will be sold at
a ridiculous price.
Yeah. It'll never get done. And this is why we are so passionate about Omega. Omega is the civilian arm of OM. It's a parallel mission. It puts the power in your hands to do what needs to be done to get this country back on track. And it's exciting work. And we're already seeing the success in people's lives individually. And when we multiply that and multiply that and multiply that, this country will transform with or without these people.
Yeah, they're completely irrelevant. This is what Omega does, and what OM does is make this current governance system irrelevant and create something new that people can just fall in with as they see fit. And there's no one leader that you can chop the head off and say that you've stopped something. This cannot be stopped. That's the beauty of what's being created, and it's the people that drive it. And thanks for doing so.
Yes, if you have any comments or questions, let us know in the comment section. I'd love to answer your questions if you have any. And yes, carry on spreading awareness for this issue and helping people see the truth amidst all the deceit. Please subscribe and like the video as well. It increases the chances of this being seen by more and more people.